The Live the Dream Media Network is proud to host an Arizona legend. His remarkable journey spans college and pro basketball, business excellence, and community leadership at the highest level. Get ready for insightful conversations, expert analysis, and a unique perspective that only one man can deliver. This is the Bob Elliott Show, exclusively on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Welcome to the Bob Elliott Show, where we try to bring to you people that you've seen their voice, you've seen their name, you might even seen them on television. But who are they? What are they about? What are they like as a person, besides what you think you see and hear on TV, radio, and the news? So that's what we try to do here. And today's guest is Taunya Villicana. Taunya is someone that you've probably seen her name. She's on the board of Rio Nuevo, so that'll be an interesting conversation. She's on the board of the African American Museum of Southern Arizona. She's on the board of the Community Foundation of Southern Arizona. And she's very tied to her alma mater, Sunnyside High School, and the Sunnyside High School Foundation. She's also the owner of Aspirational Wealth Management. So welcome to the Bird's Nest, Taunya Villicana. How you doing, Taunya?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you, Bob. This is such an honor.
Love to have you. This is great. You know, we'll get into more of it later on as you get into who you are. But how do I know Taunya? So let me go ahead and just start the ice with that one. I've known Taunya since she was in high school, and she had a friend at Sunnyside High School named Duran Johnson, and Duran played basketball at the University of Arizona, and he calls me up and he says, Mr. E, there's this classmate of mine, and she's brilliant with numbers. She knows money. She just says things that none of us understand because she's ahead of us, but I think she needs to come meet you. And I met you when you were like a senior in high school, and then here it is. I guess you can say how many years ago. I don't want to, tell you how.
Yeah, I say it's back in the 1900s. Okay. We'll just leave it there. That's
good.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. So part of what we do here also, so people get to know you, is like we do at the African American Museum of Southern Arizona. We do oral histories, and it's a chance for someone to tell their story about their life in their words without it being edited. So usually we say, start when you were born. Tell us where you were born, where you were raised, something about your siblings, your parents, etc.
Okay. So my story, I don't tell often. It's kind of a Wild West story a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was born here in Tucson, TMC, and I have kind of an interesting past from the standpoint of my mom was married and remarried. Okay. And so we lived in lots of parts of Tucson, and we struggled financially quite a bit. My immediate family was split up very early in my life. I was the youngest of the immediate four. Mm-hmm. So I was the only child that was born of those four in Tucson. Okay. And so we moved to different parts of Tucson, basically avoiding rent. And I've spent a lot of time kind of experiencing, housing challenges to food challenges. I mean, there was a point in time where I did go behind grocery stores and learned how to go into dumpsters and pull out food that was still edible.
Yes, yes.
Then we kind of, over time, got a little bit more settled. My mom married when I was 12, and we started moving ourselves into kind of more of a we lived near the Buggy Wheel, and in a trailer there for a little bit, and I was entering junior high at that stage. So I'd kind of moved around. I'm going to go back just a little bit where I started to really learn kind of how to be an athlete as well as somebody that started to enjoying academics more. Because of that movement, it was really hard for me to gain traction around a community, building community, having close friendships. A gentleman by the name of Armand Durtadian.
Yes.
Yeah, you might know him in the community. I didn't know, and he was just tall in stature and very involved with, he was in the drama. He was a drama teacher. He was our PE teacher. He was everything teacher because of those times. We were in the portables of this elementary school, and he came to me and he said, I think you're a really strong athlete. We used to do the presidential, basically to see how fit we were at that point in time and the presidential requirements. And I would, hang on that bar as long as I could and always be the one hanging on it as, the longest.
Yes,
yep.
yes.
And then he said,
They say, can I come down now? Or, I won. I'm done.
Yeah. They're like, you can you can come down. You're shaking and, you probably weigh 40 pounds at that stage. But anyway, so he decided to really take and engage me in running. And one of the things that I appreciated from him was he's like, I'll bring you running shoes. And we're going to, at lunch, eat lunch, come out and meet me, and I'm going to teach you some things about running. And then that really started on me, me thinking about like, I'm getting pretty good at this.
Okay.
This is something that's stabilizing, and it's something I can do. Like growing up the way I did, getting an instrument, renting an instrument, it was too expensive. I wanted to play drums. That was or play a flute. Those were the two things that I wanted to do and explore, but there was no chance. But running really gave me that opportunity to kind of stabilize and centralize my kind of next levels of growth. Learning how to work hard at something to be better, and then also just accelerating my education from there, because I really didn't have a traditional lifestyle around parents, like sitting next to you and reading you a book, right? We didn't have a lot of books in the house. So I had to seek learning, interestingly, through libraries and being at school and things like that. So running was my opener to really kind of generating more friendships. As I moved into junior high, I was always the number one runner, and then when I went to high school, I show up there and I'm wearing, clothes that don't fit me, and I'm getting teased by the other runners, and I took it in stride because I was used to always being the outsider and learning from that opportunity to gain friendships, and started to really
the value of athletics.
It really did.
Yes.
It turned a corner for me, and I'm going to go back just even a little bit further, just for a moment, because I think this was also pivotal. When I was in elementary school, there was something called a latchkey program, and I was at Ross Scrooge at the time, and it was at the Y, and I would, this, young person would pick us up, and he was a college student. His name was Mark. He was driving the van to pick us all up at school. Then we'd go and we'd meet up with other students in the same environment. And Denise and Mark ran this program, and they're both college students. And they took a liking to me very early on, and asked my mom if they could be my big brother, big sister.
Right.
So they started.
Was it formal, like with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program?
You know what? Here's what they tried to go that avenue, but you could not have both. So only big brothers could be with young boys, and big sisters could be with young girls.
That's right. Okay.
So they did it in a non-traditional way, and they just called it that so that it was relatable.
You know what? Does it matter?
No.
A formal name to it versus the relationship.
That's right.
Yes.
And they're still in my life today.
Yes.
They started really giving me a place and a space to learn about myself, build trust in relationships, and really help me to build into like that next chapter of, look, after you graduate from high school, you can go elsewhere. You can go on to college. You can start your own life.
Yes.
But you're going to have to stick it in there, right? You're going to have to, live your life is the way you see your vision, but you need to know that you have you have people that care about you.
Right.
You're a good person. You've got these opportunities ahead. And so, those are, so I think about my latchkey engagement with Mark and Denise. I think about Armand Dertadian. I think about my mom worked as a legal assistant, so I would ride the bus to downtown Tucson and meet her at her office. There were lawyers and the spouse of a lawyer that became my mentors too. And I know there's some, these are people that reached out to me that had no reason to, other than out of just the true care of community. And so these were things that started to build in the back of my mind of, wow, there is something better out there. There's something that I can do that I love. And if it's, athletics, if it's learning from others, if it's accelerating my life in a way that is meaningful for me, because it wasn't what I was getting at home.
Right, yes. Yeah. Hearing some of what you've shared so far really connects the dots into your involvement, like with the Sunnyside High School Foundation. You have, that comes out strongly, that desire to help and help others, as we're hearing, because people helped you.
You're right.
It really comes through strongly. But again, the reason why we have this show, they might see your name as, oh, you're a board member of Rio Nuevo, and
That's right.
they do things. And the African American Museum of Southern Arizona, and the board of Southern Arizona Community Foundation, and all of those are where you're helping people. And now it shows why, because of what you shared about how your life growing up. Yeah, that's amazing. I also understand now, and I'm not afraid to say it, why we have such a connection, because what I shared with everybody, the fact that you come to my office when you're a senior in high school, and now we're still 30, 40, I don't know how many years that would have been.
Over 30 years,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, so that's good. Amazing. Well, your passion comes through loudly and clearly. Your desire to get things done comes through loudly and clearly. And I can see why someone like Rio Nuevo wanted you on their board, because that's what you do. So explain to people in English, Rio Nuevo, what do they do? Why do they do it without any kind of political connotation to it? Because again, I do not want to get into politics. You'll see some other people later on as the show keeps going on. They're politicians, that's fine. But they're people. Okay, what are they about? And as you just shared, so what is about the Rio Nuevo board made you want to be on there, and some of the good things that happen?
Absolutely. So I'm, as a youth going to downtown Tucson, spending time in our community, thinking about what makes a community vibrant, what really keeps us in our community, because we could go anywhere, right? We get to a stage of life and we can, get educated and move to other communities that we think that are a better fit for us. I always felt as though the 5 mountain ranges kept me here. And I also felt, from travel, from the exposure I allowed myself through my career path to see lots of different communities, lots of places. I've been on every continent on the globe, and it's helped me really see different ways of, how we can live better and how we can thrive together. And downtown settings are opportunity to make that safe first, vibrant from the standpoint of bring a variety of cuisine opportunities, entertainment, retail, and just really, expand upon the arts and let the community express itself. If we do this right and we do it collectively and we listen to the voices and we allow for those folks to come in and really share their vision, their business model, and how we can support them, I am completely, I think I'm honored, more importantly, to be a part of that process, because I sit around the table with great people, but I also get to hear from people that never thought that they could have a chance. And they're really wanting to make Tucson a thriving, beautiful place for people to come and enjoy in a safe environment. And so I want to support that.
Yes. You talk about downtown, and I think about Rio Nuevo. There's I don't know what the technical term is, the corridor.
Yes.
Basically from
all
downtown
the way down to Park
Broadway
Place.
to Park Place. Yes.
And I use Fletcher's analogy, kind of calls it an old-fashioned key, because we actually go to the base of a mountain all the way down into, like you mentioned, Park Place. And so we have so many great businesses that have relocated or stayed within Z-Moms. Look at them. They have the coffee shop, they have the sports bar, they have, the food, the retail. And so they're a great example of community. They navigate our business worlds, trying to basically bring concepts that are interesting to our community, but also their culture and they've made a business out of it for our community. And then you look at Rocco's, right? They're once upon a time in the smaller building, and now they're in this really cool space. And now you get to go in there and say, gosh, this is a community that's thriving, that has a great restaurant space, that they're continuing to share their culinary experience.
Right.
And then you look at, some of the retail space, right? We're going to see more and more of that explosion downtown. We have some stuff that's, boutique hotels that are putting in retail space that's about Tucson.
Right.
And it's going to drive the university, visitors and people that are patronizing our university and students and everyone else into the downtown corridor. We want people to be able to celebrate, but also engage in those companies and those businesses that are locally rooted.
Right. Right. I'm sitting there thinking about that whole stretch on Broadway, and you mentioned some of the restaurants that have had a chance to expand and have that collaboration with Rio Nuevo. It just makes me think of, a regular person sees Broadway and probably says, look at all this construction and look at how the streets are all torn up, et cetera. But there's a plan here. As you just heard, we just heard, there's a plan. It takes time. You have to be a little patient, but the end result is what sounds like what your Rio Nuevo is trying to do to revitalize and to help our community in a very an area that definitely everybody can see. Broadway is Broadway. I always kiddingly, people talk about Tucson. I say, a million people in the metropolis. And what I love about it is there might as well be one stoplight at Stone and Broadway. That's kind of how we are. And it has that kind of a feel. You want something crazy, you can go to Phoenix or LA. But if you want that nice, as you mentioned, the 5 mountains, ranges. So I see the Rio Nuevo, and hopefully now people understand a little bit more about why Rio Nuevo's there and what it does. The Community Foundation of Southern Arizona, you're also on that board.
I am.
They're very instrumental in helping a lot of different organizations also, and educate people about what they do also.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to kind of go back to some of my rooted reasons why the Community Foundation of Southern Arizona is so important to me as a person and as a community member. Going back to the Sunnyside School District Foundation years, Paul Tang was the reason why I joined that foundation. Specifically, I was in a Kiwanis group, and he had come to speak on CASA's program. And then he had mentioned that he was a Sunnyside grad. We connected immediately afterwards, and he's like, tomorrow we need to have coffee. He's the kind of person you can't say no to, right? Right, Bob? Bob has that status.
I got you.
Bob has that status in my life. He's like, look, we're really trying to get back to our district. We started this in 1994. So that was my movement back into the Sunnyside School District. That was my boomerang opportunity where I could come back. The teachers that Robin Roberts, who's near and dear to me, and Larry Martinez, my coach. I mean, there's so many factors of, reasons why I came back to the Sunnyside community. The other is that I didn't realize that this would be something that could happen in our community, Sunnyside community, where people would show up and come back and be, proactive to not only funding grants that allow students to augment their trajectory through, K through 12, but also looking beyond that for Pima Community College, the university systems. But these people came together. They were all founders that were all Sunnyside grads.
Right.
There was, a judge, a lawyer. There's, a librarian. There's, all these people sitting at the table. And this connective tissue was like, wow, we're all professionals and we're all coming to give back to our community. And this is really, I think we're getting more out of it than the community. And so as I'm working through, learning more, stacking my knowledge around the new needs and some of the things that I knew just from growing up, I'm thinking about, gosh, wouldn't that be awesome if we could take this to a bigger level and take it to a larger level? If, employers are saying we're looking for qualified, employees. I own a company. I'm looking for qualified
employees,
and well-trained employees. what am I doing about it? And how am I doing, not only giving my time, but also listening to others and learning from each other. So learned a lot through that process of being a board member for the foundation. And then fast forward, I never imagined being able to even be on the board of the community foundation. It was a whole different world of people. I wasn't allowed in those doors.
Yes.
Things shifted. I'd spent a lot of time on other boards, Planned Parenthood. I had, 15 years of service on that board. I did, the C3 as well as the C4. So I really helped with the operational side, and then I helped
explain before you difference between a 501c3 and a 501c4.
Yes. So Planned Parenthood is unique in this environment. They have the side that all they do is the 501c3 is we provide services to young women and men, everything from breast screening to healthcare, et cetera. On the C4 side, we worked with advocacy. So what kinds of things would be in that realm? And so C4 is a separate board entirely with a different mandate that really focuses on how do we continue to receive funding, get funding for this healthcare that we're providing throughout Arizona. And then the other piece of that is helping bring in folks that want to go into advocacy work. So if you wanted to be a politician or do other work that really helps any type of healthcare. So we really helped kind of generate a program where people get training that's active and proactive to teach them those skill sets. So it was pretty broad in range around advocacy, and it really, my role there was to not only, because you know what happens when you're in finance, everybody wants you to be their, their treasurer, and I push back
Audit
on
chair,
that.
finance chair, yes.
That's correct.
Something with the numbers.
That's right. That's right. And I always push back on that because what I wanted to do is I want to learn the substance of the organization and how I can be a better ambassador.
Right.
You do that through the numbers, yes. However, you also do it through the other committee work. And so these are things that I continue to build upon over time, and I met some of the most incredible people in my life, my best friends, right? My family.
Right.
And so what really helped me to kind of also see where the Community Foundation sleeve came into the fold for me was during COVID, they reached out to me and said, hey, we're changing our board. We're going through lots of big changes. We're changing in leadership.
Right.
Your name was put forward. We'd like to interview you for this role as a trustee.
Right.
And, that's when I felt like it was a mic drop. I was like, this is where I want to be.
Yes.
This is so timely. And so went through the process of really learning a lot about the agency, the donor pools, the donors, the trustees, the work that is, like you mentioned, there's so much impact that the Community Foundation has from the standpoint of helping other nonprofits skill build, build their boards, build their operations, expand their funding sources, and also just be a better quality partner inside philanthropy as well as working closely with our community. So it has such a span of people and resources that, gosh, I just was like, I think I'm learning more, and I don't know how much I'm bringing to the table. However, that being said, we have great partners, but we also have an incredible agency. When I sit with the staff and I'm in those meetings with the staff and all the different partners that come to us and we do these gatherings, I feel invigorated by the capabilities we have and then also the respect and the impact.
Yes,
and we're able to really be the hub, right? Where people can come and have those tough conversations around funding, defunding.
Yes.
What does it mean when we have diverse workforce? So if we say it one way and we don't do it one way, what does that mean? Or how should we be handling the new political environment? We've lost everything. So we're that safe haven, where we don't have all the resources, but we have partners that we can match up with others.
Yes.
And that's community.
Yeah, collaboration is in a place that's quote unquote small, but the more times you collaborate, you bring more people involved, same missions, same values, and you get more done.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You said to me a major word there, impact. It's about having an impact in our community. And you mentioned the Sunnyside. Before we went on air, we were talking about another one of your Sunnyside people, which is Kristen Garcia Hernandez, who, as you said, you sit there as a student in the Sunnyside school system, and you move on, and you're able to move up, and she's now the CEO for Girl Scouts. Oh, so Kristen will actually be one of our guests on the show in January when the Girl Scouts drop the cookies.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Because I'm a cookie nut. Yeah. Okay, I like my cookies.
Yes.
But no,
we're a Girl Scout fan.
Yes. You know, I get a question a lot from people, younger people. They find out that, okay, you're on this board, you're on that board. How do you do that? How do you get there? And I think what you've just shared is it started with a process where, yes, at one point I'm sitting there as a student at Sunnyside High School, and I knew to get involved and get on a board here, wherever they will allow me, where it will match up with my vision and with my morals and what I want to do. You get on that board. Then you build basically a board resume, as I call it, which makes you now attractive to, earlier you said, I couldn't believe that, Community Foundation of Southern Arizona would come to me and ask me to be a trustee. Rio Nuevo would come, but you built up that board resume, and every place you've gone, you've been successful, you've been helpful, you've helped make an impact in other people's lives, and that's what I love about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just keep being you, and everything will be great. More you in the world will be fine. So hopefully now people have a better understanding when you see the name Taunya Villicana, and you see the Rio Nuevo, and you see the Southern Arizona Community Foundation, you see the African American Museum of Southern Arizona, you see the Sunnyside Foundation. Now you will understand more of why she does what she does, where she does it, and that we're in good hands. So thank you so much for being a member of the Bird's Nest, coming in to talk on this radio show, on this TV show.
So may I say a couple things?
You sure can.
So Bob has been the person that's opened a lot of doors for me. And those doors were big doors. I mean, they were over 7 feet tall.
I'm 6'9". No.
But we have to cover, you have to get your head
I'm
through
just
there.
Kidding.
So what I want to say is how much I appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
You started, you brought me into the bank board.
Yes.
We went through the financial crisis, what I call the modern day depression, together. We went to, then you also brought me into the Tucson Airport Authority. We didn't even touch on that topic. I serve on several committees there, and I had the honor to be the chair of that board.
Right.
You've opened doors for me that are huge. And then when Bev and you had just started the process of, getting the board together, you emailed me, and I was completely honored.
Well,
and I am still very honored to be on our board.
Yeah, the African American Museum.
That's right. Southern Arizona African American Museum.
Yes.
The only one that we can say in the state of Arizona stands up to, and that your grandchild, your grandson, you listened to him, you opened the door for that opportunity, and you brought your people in.
Yes.
And I'm honored to be one of them.
Well, thank you. I people find out now, but see, now you know why I call her my little sister. Well, thank you, Kim, for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It's been great.
Thank you.
So join us Friday, 9 a.m., December 12th, for the next version of the Bob Elliott Show. Our guest will be Lafayette Fat Lever, former Pueblo High School basketball player, Arizona State, which we don't say too much, basketball player, NBA. He's the president of the NBA Retired Player Association Phoenix chapter. He'll be our guest on Friday, December 12th. And thank you for watching.
You're listening to the Live the Dream Media Network, Arizona's premier live podcast studio and online radio.